Shut those real quick. Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the way. Not all the way. It'll be too dark.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for today's webinar with Eric and Amy McVeigh. As you guys have probably noticed, over the last week, we have been promoting an anniversary sale in celebration of the 1-year anniversary of Eric McVeigh's course with If I Made. And today we just wanted to give you guys a chance to get to know Eric and Amy more. They have so much insight and knowledge into the industry, and we're just super excited to have them. Thanks guys for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. Yay.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming.
A couple of things we like to start off the webinar telling people is that this is a live broadcast. So depending on your internet connection, sometimes it can get to be a little slow-mo and or fuzzy. A lot of times, Webinar Jam will correct itself within a few seconds and it's not a problem. If you get pushed off, just use the same link that was given to you to log on in the first place and we'll be right here, where we were before. And then let's say you have to hop off for some reason, you gotta go pick up your kids or you have an appointment. You will receive a replay link after the webinar so you can catch up on anything that you missed. We're going to spend the first couple of minutes going through a few slides, and then Eric and Amy are going to dive right in and answer all of your questions. And then we're going to be sharing the winner of the giveaway at the end of the webinar. So yeah, and then one other question that we always get about our webinars and our videos is the quality of the video in the course the same as the webinar? And there are two different types of videos. So this is a live broadcast, it's all dependent on your internet stream, whereas the videos in the course have all been pre-recorded. They're very high quality, great sound, great graphics, great visuals. So it is a completely different experience. And if you have any questions about the videos, we're going to be putting up an offer at the end where you can actually go and view a few behind the scenes of Eric teaching so you get an idea of, what they're all about. So if you're joining the webinar, you guys, let me share my screen real quickly. Here we go. Here you go. So if you're here today, you guys may be struggling with some of these things below. Attracting the budget and the style that you want, working hard but not making enough money, kind of that doom loop, taking on a lot of work, feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so well, and then they're not making any money in your bank account at the end of the month. How do you grow a lasting, sustainable business? Surviving in a smaller market and then moving into new markets and refining and marketing your brand. And I feel like Eric and Amy have done such a great job at tackling all 5 of these. And they're going to be answering questions around each of these kind of different subjects of building a sustainable business, how do you market your brand, standing out. And so in celebration of Eric and Amy's course, we're actually running a special this week. And something new that we're offering this year that we didn't have last year is that we have a brand new payment plan where you can get access to Eric's course today for only $79 a month. This is open to US and international residents. And this is like a short window promotion. It ends tomorrow. And this includes 750 pages of original content, 16 worksheets, 2+ hours of video training, and access to this amazing Facebook group with Eric, which Amy and Eric are going to talk a little bit more about at the end. You're going to learn in the course how to gain more inquiries, convert these to bookings, how do you grow your business in a saturated market, how do you make a successful transition to film photography, how do you begin to book those destination wedding clients, and pricing and structuring your wedding packages. Eric really went all out and shared everything he knows about wedding photography. It's definitely our most in-depth, informative course, beginning to end, that we offer on If I Made. So Eric, Amy, we're going to jump right in and start answering questions.
Okay.
Heck yeah. I love questions.
Am I back?
Yeah.
You're back.
Awesome.
I see you. Hi.
So Eric, on yesterday's Instagram live chat with Photovision, someone said editing film isn't that nonsense, Eric.
So in my opinion, that is not nonsense at all. Film is definitely a different animal than digital was. And for me, it's cut down the editing time a ton, from all these thousands of raw images to, a much more concise number of film scans. But even as perfect as my lab Photovision can get those scans, get those images, I'm almost always going to add my little special secret something, not so secret, little special something to almost every image and make tweaks when needed, because I think that helps, to define my style and hone in on my the look that I want, making those little tweaks and separates my images from maybe the next photographer so that they're really my own. So I embrace the little bit of editing that is still required with film. I think that it is necessary too. And it's necessary for you and your clients. I mean, I want everything that I put out the door and that I deliver to clients to be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to make sure that every image is closely and carefully considered and that it's up to my standards.
I think that there's a myth, especially for people who maybe haven't shot film, but they're transitioning or they're interested, or people who are new to film. And it's the belief that if you shoot film, there's no post-processing, or the scans you get back from the lab should be absolutely perfect, first scan all the way through to the end of the shoot. And if you haven't, I would highly recommend visiting your lab if that's possible. It's so eye-opening to see how negatives are scanned in. It's totally different than what you would think. And
it's much different from what most people think it's going to be, their perception.
It's subjective. It's a kind of antiquated process. The technology hasn't really been updated for those huge scanners on the market that are used by most pro film labs. So it's fascinating to learn, and I think it allows you to understand more what you have control over, what the lab has control over, and when it's okay if you do need to tweak film scans.
Exactly. And the lab's job, and they'll tell you, my lab PhotoVision will tell you, their job is to get that scan 95% of the way. And that you might take it that last 5% if you want to. And 95% is pretty darn good and very passable, but I want 100% every time. So I put that extra little effort into each individual photo.
We've got a question from Yana. What kind of film camera do you advise starting with?
Man, that's a tough question. I think there are a lot of factors at play. I think that budget is often a big factor. And so I guess the first thing I'd start off by saying is that, I shoot on a medium format film camera, which is different from a 35mm film camera. Both, are fully capable of taking amazing images, but there are obvious differences in those images because the negatives on the medium format are 2.5 times the size, and the format is completely different. So make sure that if you're looking to just jump into film and kind of get that starter camera, and you want just a 35mm that's $100 or a couple $100, that that it's not necessarily going to create the same results as a Contax 645 or a Mamiya 645 or Pentax 645 or something of that nature. So, I mean, for introductory cameras for medium format, the Pentax 645 and Mamiya are both, our cat is walking. Are both great ways to sort of get yourself acquainted to film and not have to pay an arm and a leg. And of course, if you do buy a camera and want to upgrade later, their value is not really going anywhere. It's not going down. I mean, you're going to buy an aftermarket camera to begin with anyways, and you can sell it aftermarket again for about the same price. So the Contax is my go-to, but it's obviously there's a big price tag. It's pretty much, the most expensive option out there for real film. I don't know a ton about all the little 35mm available. I'm not like a total camera or film nerd. I started film on the Contax, and that's been the look that I have always enjoyed the most. So that's what I've kind of rolled with. But there's probably a lot of other people, a lot of other photographers who know all those different 35s, because there are hundreds really, and I'm not the expert.
So this is from Daniel. This question is for Amy. Amy, how has your role changed in the photography business over the years? Have you taken on more or changed responsibilities on a wedding day versus day-to-day business operations? And how do you see this role evolving?
Hi, Daniel. Thanks. So a little bit of background on me. So I worked for a large public relations firm for years, and then did in-house corporate marketing for a company. And actually, that's how I met Eric. It was on his first ever photography job. He got hired to shoot an ad campaign for the company I was working for, and they said, "Hey, we hired this guy to shoot the ad campaign. You have to work with him." And in walked Eric, and I liked my job.
She liked what she saw.
Okay. But so anyways, so I kept working at my marketing job for about a year after Eric and I got married. I'm so sorry. Our cat really wants to be in this video.
I love the cat.
So I kept working in marketing. And then about a year into us being married and about maybe 3 years into Eric being a photographer, he made the jump to shooting film, and he was growing his business at such a rapid rate that we knew that long-term it would be a two-man job. And we also knew that long-term our goal for our family was just that I wouldn't be working a corporate job, that I would be able to work from home and be a mom and do something together. We both grew up in families where our parents ran businesses together, so that kind of felt natural to us and a great next step in what we hoped for our family. So starting out, when I first quit my job and became full-time Eric's tag-along, I was trying to prove my value and had my hand in everything. I was helping to answer emails. I was doing submissions, probably overkill, but just trying to prove my worth. And not that Eric ever asked for me to prove my worth, but I'm a hard worker and I wanted to feel like I was adding value. I think over the years, my role has kind of changed because we've grown our business in other ways with the workshops. I planned all of our in-person workshops and helped to develop the online course that we're selling now. And then I also helped to run Make and Stow, the box and wood board company that we run with Eric's parents. And then just trying to scale back as much as possible. We're in the process of trying to grow our family through adoption. And we just know that once we do have a little one home with us, I'll be focused more on that. So really day-to-day operations for Eric's business now, I really don't do much. I don't answer any of his emails. I just come with him on weekends for weddings to assist. So I carry a bag, load his film, that's about it, and try to add value where I can. But really we've kind of scaled back my involvement, knowing that the future will entail me not really being as involved. There's the answer. Yeah.
Liesl asked, do you shoot a whole wedding on film, or do you combine film and digital?
So obviously I talk a lot about this in the course, and there's actually a chapter called The Complete Wedding that's got to be it's 100 pages or something. And I think it's even from start to finish, from initial client email all the way through delivery of the final product and everything in between, which is, what I'm shooting for each portion of the wedding day, and then example photos to go along with it. So really, but the short answer is I shoot medium format film anytime I have enough light to do so. So I'm usually shooting 2 medium format cameras, one on each shoulder, and one has color film and one has black and white, and they're both Contax 645s. And when I have enough natural light to shoot those, I'm shooting those 100%. I don't, the digital's back away in the bag, and so is the 35. And I bust out the 35 a little bit for some movement stuff like wedding processional, and I also shoot dancing photos with flash on the 35. And then I bring out the digital for any time when it's too dark to be shooting color film where I can bump up the ISO and still get kind of those moody candle lit or first dance type images when needed, because I think digital does an amazing job with those that I personally can't do the same thing with film without being maybe intrusive and bringing in off-camera lighting. When I want to be a fly on the wall and be across the room shooting the couple while they're kind of nuzzling at their table, I don't want to have a big video light in their face, which I would have to have if I was shooting film. I can bump up the ISO and shoot that way. And then when I do shoot digital, I edit with Maston Labs, which are a great way to sort of mesh my film and digital work, and they make my galleries pretty seamless.
Katie asked, do you always manual focus your lens or your contacts, or do you autofocus, or do you go back and forth?
So I always manual focus. Always manual focus. The autofocus is, in my opinion, just not very reliable or accurate. And so manual, I started that way, and it's a tough thing at the beginning when you're just starting to shoot with that camera to manual focus everything. You have to get the hang of it, and the more you use the camera, the easier it becomes. So it's really like second nature now.
And I mean, Eric, you really go into so much detail in the course with all this like technical nitty gritty, what you shoot, type of film, when you use black and white color. It is, I mean, Amy and Eric were super transparent in their course. I mean, everything they knew, it was like, we're sharing it here and now. And if you guys actually want to take a peek into a chapter in the course, if you go to the landing page at the end, we're going to put up an offer to the site. You can actually read a chapter and kind of get a taste of like how detailed the course really is. Our next question is coming from Santa. How do you make people feel comfortable in front of the camera?
Santa, I know him. Sorry. How do I make people? I just made everybody feel uncomfortable. So I don't think you should be asking me. Good question. I think just a good positive, at ease kind of rapport, just right from the get-go, is so important. I think just developing like a little bit of trust, and I mean, I want to make people not feel like I'm jamming the camera in their face. Like, the one thing I mentioned in the course is that I'm always going to start off a shoot, whether it's wedding or an engagement or whatever, with something really easy for the couple. I'm not going to have them sit and smile at the camera, because that's what everybody dreads. That's what everybody thinks an engagement shoot is going to be. So instead, I'm going to have them hold hands and walk away, or just go in for a big hug and tell them to pretend like I'm not there and just like it's the two of them, because that's what I want to make them feel like it is just the two of them. And I'm giving a ton of positive reinforcement, a ton of direction, and I feel like even the people that would have a tendency to be uptight or uneasy in front of the camera, within a few minutes they really loosen up. And I think it's just about developing that trust and making them feel comfortable, and also making them feel like the photos look amazing right from the beginning. And of course, I'm not going to lie. I'm always very well set up for the shoot, and I have my settings and lighting all figured out ahead of time. So it does look really good, and I'm going to tell them and make sure they know so that they feel confident.
Yeah, I feel like Eric's really good about avoiding awkward silence on a photo shoot, whether it's engagement or during a wedding. He kind of fills that silence with just like, oh, that looks great. Okay, a little bit here. He's just like continuously narrating the shoot. And I feel like it helps put them at ease, because it's so awkward when it does go silent. Then you're like, do I look funny? Why are you quiet? You haven't clicked the camera shutter. What's happening? So he really talks them through as he's doing stuff, and is very complimentary and encouraging, because most people aren't professional models. Most people aren't in front of the camera all the time. And it really helps for you to tell them, you're doing a great job. That looks amazing. Hold that right there.
Yeah.
And we go into a lot of that in the behind the scenes videos. We have a real couple photo shoot as one of the 3 like hour-long videos that show this is how Eric works with a real couple. And I feel like that's super helpful to see how he engages with them and directs them.
Yeah.
So we have a question. If you're an experienced photographer but recently moved to a new place, I moved to New York, how should I start working, and from where should I start? And Eric, in the course, you kind of talked from beginning to end of like how you started in your local market, really got a hold of that, and then transitioned into destination weddings, which is kind of a different approach than a lot of other people take, but it's worked out really well for y'all. What would you suggest for this photographer that's like moving to a new place, in terms of like what you start establishing your business?
Well, I think just that one of the biggest things that helped us to be a success and to get us to where we are today is to have started in our local market and to gradually grow out. I think putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, and assuming, you can dive right into destination weddings is a really tough thing, and it can actually be almost defeating. I think you can get a lot more little victories and grow your business the right way if you start at the local level and develop a client base and develop relationships there, and develop your what's the word, Amy?
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay. Reputation.
There we go.
Develop your reputation and grow out from there. Amy, adding?
Yeah, I think New York's a pretty competitive market. And so she just moved to New York. Was that it?
Yeah. in New York?
So I would think that it's tough because you're going to have to network and kind of grow your presence in the market, but you don't want it to be disingenuous. Yeah. Reaching out to every planner and photographer under the sun saying, hey, I just moved here, I want to grab coffee, really probably isn't the most beneficial way to start growing your network, because if you think about it, put yourself in their shoes. You're busy, you're booked up, you're successful in your market. Somebody you've never met reaches out and says, I want to meet for coffee. That is taking time away from your business just to sit and meet with someone you don't know. And they don't know if you're adding value to their career or their personal life, or like, why are they meeting with you? So really you have to be careful about what you're asking of others in the new market you're coming to, and make sure that you're bringing something of value.
Yeah. And one thing, or a couple things to add, which you're probably getting to, is to get out there and shoot in your new location and develop a portfolio and start getting the work out there. And if you don't have a client base, which you probably don't if you're totally new to the city, stalk Instagram and find some cute couples and reach out to them and tell them that you'll shoot them for free. Or again, if you are going to network, which I think is a good thing, don't go out to, the number one planner in New York and approach them and say, hey, I really want to work with you. What can I do to make it happen? Because they're not going to want to do that. They're busy. They don't probably have time. So find someone who's kind of maybe at the same point in their career as you, maybe someone who's not as well established in that particular area, and reach out to them and tell them you want to collaborate. And I mean, it actually, we tell the story a lot of how Ginny, and us kind of came to be an ongoing team, and neither of us were really any kind of deal at all when we first worked together. But we reached out to her and asked her to do our workshop because we loved her work, and we noticed it just by some happenstance.
I think on One Sweat.
Yeah, probably on One Sweat.
Yeah.
Shout out. And we just saw her talents, and we loved her, just her aura about her. And so we asked her to do our workshop, and she, of course, but she was excited, and we kind of grew together. And the things that we were able to produce together were really some of my favorite things ever, and some of the most beautiful things that we'd had an opportunity to shoot. And I feel like that was the right way to grow, and the right way to
It's good to grow with a fellow creative that you click with and you're at about the same level in terms of career trajectory. So you can kind of grow together, dream big together, and reach goals together. But I think for that new market, definitely create content in there, get it featured, and then target in on some people who you think would be good fit for collaboration. And
one other thing is to get your SEO kind of pumping in that direction. Yeah. Don't leave your website tagline as, California wedding photographer, if that's where you were before. Change it to New York City wedding photographer. Search terms that people are going to type into Google to hopefully then find you, and start building that SEO. And if you don't know about SEO, we do talk about it a little bit in the course. I'm not an expert, and there are other great resources. It's super simple, but it's one of the things that helps me grow my business and kind of get in front of people's eyes.
Well, and I think that principle of like growing with other, people that are kind of in the same plane as you can work anywhere. I mean, yes, I feel like maybe it only works in New York and California because there's pools of, amazing talent there. But I personally have experience in Atlanta. When I started One Sweat, I connected with Joy Thigpen and Our Labor of Love, and we were kind of all in the same place in our business. And I've seen the same thing happen in Birmingham with Ginny and Riley, Holly Carlisle. So, I mean, even if you live in a smaller town, it's just, networking, but being strategic about it. I think kind of what Amy and Eric spoke to earlier.
Yeah, and starting at that local level, really just it gained this customer base and kind of fan base that's really like loyal and invested in you. And I think that's so important to have that squad behind you, because jumping levels, I think you miss that part.
Jenna asked, Eric, do you shoot with a second photographer? If so, do they shoot film, digital, or both?
So 95% of the time, I would say 23 out of 25 weddings a year, it's just Amy and I shooting. And any normal kind of wedding day, you know, aside from maybe like a huge wedding, like we shot an Indian wedding in Spain 2 years ago, where we did need to bring on a second shooter for that big wedding day where it takes place over a long period of time and different things are happening in different places at the same time. Instances like that, I do feel the need to definitely bring someone on when I feel like I'm going to risk missing moments. But by and large, you know, Amy and I are able to cover it ourselves, and that's even without her.
Yeah, I'm not considered a second shooter. I really don't shoot throughout the day. My role is to support Eric, keep his film loaded, keep him on time with the wedding day schedule, help him however he needs help to create the best imagery that day.
Yeah, and this only works because we're very diligent about making sure that we have an effective wedding day photography timelines in place before, you know, well before the wedding day, so that we are accounting for every minute of the day and know what we're going to be shooting, and that know that we're going to be where we need to be when we need to be there and not miss anything. I think it would be irresponsible to, you know, maybe not bring on a second shooter if maybe we needed one, but then also have a very lax attitude about having a wedding day timeline.
It just comes from a lot of thorough upfront communication with the clients throughout the booking process and planning process. So we make sure that they know, here's our recommendations for timeline, and then we listen to them and what their needs and priorities are. Some people do have a priority on like coverage of all of the guests during cocktail hour when we might be busy doing family photos or portraits. And then we say, okay, sounds like maybe you might need a second photographer. Here's our pricing for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's another big thing though, is we would never for free bring on a second photographer because we feel that the couple needs it. Your job as a photographer and as a business is not to solve all of your clients' problems by giving away stuff for free. Photography is a luxury. It's something that you put priority on by budgeting for it in your wedding budget, and you give them options and you give them great service and a great product, but you don't have to give stuff away for free and solve all of their issues. We've had clients say, gosh, my budget's this, but I really want you to stay for 12 hours, not 8. And we're like, okay, well, here are your options. Not, I hear you. It sounds like it's really important to you. We'll stay for free. You give them options, but you're still a business with a service that they can pay for if it's important to them.
And especially when we're shooting film, where each hour of coverage is going to cost us a certain dollar amount. It's not just necessarily time. And even if you're not shooting film, how many, hours of editing digital photos is that, and what is your time worth? So, if we are in that position where it does seem like a client needs an additional shooter or extra hours, I'm always going to make sure and be very upfront about that. And just that open line of communication is so important to setting everybody's expectations and setting us up for success.
So Bailey asks, can you describe your post-shoot workflow? Do you have a preference between Lightroom and Photoshop or something else for editing? And this actually ties directly to a special that we're hosting just on this webinar. So this is a great time to maybe share it.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, should I answer the question first?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, we're on the same wavelength. We got this. So I use Lightroom to do really all of the organization and editing of my images. So really, like, first thing I'm going to do when I get my film scans back is drag the entire lot into Lightroom and start organizing and editing. And yeah, like Emily mentioned, we have a video, and she'll tell you about how you can get it. But we did a video. I think it's I want to say it's like an hour and a half of how I pull a wedding in and how I edit it and how I organize it. And then as well, I include how I edit an array of different types of images, including just different types of film images, the moody, the light, the details, the portraits. And then also how I edit digital images as well. And I think that answers the question. Obviously, when touch-ups are needed on photos and Lightroom can't quite do what we need to have done, we do use Photoshop to make all those images perfect and make sure everybody looks their best.
Yeah. Like Eric said, so this is an hour-long video. It's a screen capture of Eric working in Lightroom. So kind of showing, like he said, not different types of images to kind of get an idea of how, he edits in Lightroom. And this is just exclusive for people that have attended the webinar. So whether you're watching live or you end up watching on the replay link, we're going to give you a promo code at the end. And this goes along with your course purchase. So if you buy the course, you also get this extra fun bit of it, which is actually an amazing resource to be able to see how Eric edits his film in Lightroom. So
I think it's really cool because I think as a new film shooter, it's really hard to you don't necessarily understand what takes place, like what someone like me who's shooting film for a while, that image that was shot in the video translates into an actual photo real time, which I think is like the coolest learning tool and something that, again, I was really excited about and I feel like makes this course extra special.
Yeah. Cassie asked, what would you say has been one of the biggest benefits of submitting your work for publication?
Yeah, I think that initially, and I think Emily, obviously, as the owner of OneSweat, you know this as well. Initially, a lot more direct, like a few years back, a lot more direct inquiries would come from getting your weddings featured on, blogs like OneSweat. But unfortunately, things are a little bit different these days. That being said, I don't get a lot of direct inquiries from features, but I would never, ever stop getting as much work featured or all of my best work featured because it still does amazing things. It builds
get visibility, I think, in the market. Yeah. And I think it also, it kind of provides that support and proof of your validity as a company within the industry. So a lot of times we may not get direct inquiries from every single feature that happens these days, but we are seen by important people in the industry who still follow those blogs, and it keeps us top of mind. And it also allows us, for SEO purposes, those features go a long way in linking to our site. Yeah. And then also having shout outs on Instagram and Facebook whenever those features and those images are shared. So yeah. I think there's still a huge benefit to it. And I think it also allows you to kind of nurture those relationships with the publications once you are featured, and it can really just help for a long-term relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, when submitting to publications, you want to ask questions like, are you going to feature this on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter? Because I think that is an important part today of being featured, is that you want to be getting that social cred as well. Because a lot of times that's the first thing, how brides find you is on the Sami Pretties and the OneSweat feeds. And then they go to those sites to do a deeper dive.
Yeah,
exactly. Visibility on their feeds. And most blogs, I feel do feature their work on Instagram, but not all of them do. So it's something you definitely want to ask. I know on OneSweat, every time we put up a feature, there's also a corresponding post on Instagram. So
yeah,
and that Instagram post is just as valuable, if not more, as the actual blog post.
These days,
it's totally different. It used to be 25 comments on a blog post, and now it's 25 comments on the Instagram post instead. Yeah. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're getting featured.
And just brand recognition in general. The more times someone sees your name pop up, it validates your brand more and more each time.
Yeah.
And they're going to be willing to invest more and invest in you over other photographers. If that name, it's just like anything else. It's a brand. And if that name is in their head, it adds to your value.
Okay. Emily's asking, I'm about to launch my very first website for wedding photography. Are there any specific points that you think are important to have on there?
So first website for wedding photography?
Yeah. So what would you, it sounds like she just wants your suggestions of she's building a website, right. what are you need to have these, if you can only get 5 things on there, what are the most important things?
Right. So based on talking to planners, I would say that somewhere where them and their clients can see full wedding, not full wedding galleries, I'm sorry, but featured weddings, not just necessarily a mishmash, portfolio of a smattering of images from different shoots and weddings. But, that's great to have, but also someplace where they can click either in blog post format or gallery format and kind of look through, the highlights of an actual wedding day or of multiple weddings. And that's one of the important things on the front page of my website that I know that planners and couples love to see. SEO, obviously, take it into consideration. That's just a big thought as you're building your website. That's an important one. And I would say, on your contact form, asking people where they're finding you is also really important, to be able to track, how people are being led to you and your website, so that you can sort of pivot and adjust and make business decisions, because that's a really important bit of info. And I talk a lot in the course about, there's a section about, where our referrals are coming from these days, and what we're doing to sort of maintain those types of referrals, and how the industry has changed over the years, and kind of changes we've made as we've seen, the internet and social media change, and what we've done to kind of continue getting the same amount of inquiries or more in this market that's ever changing.
Eric, I know you go into a lot more detail about this in the course, but we got a question about your relationship with vendors. At this point in your career, are the majority of your weddings coming from inquiries from brides versus, wedding planners? Can you speak a little to that? I mean, I know there's way more information in the course, but.
Yeah, the short answer is, again, that it changes every year, which is crazy. But having our thumb on the pulse is like the most important thing, so that we can make sure we're putting our efforts into the places that count, because it has changed so much over the years. And I do talk about that in the course. But I mean, these days, Instagram is huge, and Google is huge, and the SEO thing is, the most important factor there. And also, really lately for me, wedding planners has also been huge. But again, last year, that answer was probably a little bit different. So, like I said, having that section on the contact form that's kind of a real-time account of where people are finding you is really important, and paying attention to that data and, putting it to use, and not just doing something because you think it's supposed to be done that way, or because you've done it that way in the past. But again, being up with the times, and analyzing and pivoting and making sure
I think it also is important to make sure that, as much as you're concerned about how people are finding you and making sure they are finding you, be concerned about what they're seeing when they do find you. I just saw a question pop up by Mary Grace about Instagram, and keeping personal work and professional work on the same feed. That kind of question comes up a lot, and is something we talk a lot about with fellow photographers is, how are you cultivating your brand? How are you making sure that it's effective and selling your work and adding value and elevating it? Because if you're posting on your Instagram just a ton of personal stuff that doesn't look aesthetically in line with your photography brand, I don't think that it's going to benefit you as much as if you kept it in a very curated manner, for professional purposes. Things have changed. Instagram is basically your calling card. It is your new website. It's your new portfolio. When people hear about someone, the first place they look for them is Instagram. And if your feed looks wonky, or it doesn't look super legit, it doesn't look on par with the aesthetic that your brand should be, people will move along. They're not going to stop for a long time, or take it seriously, or take note of you. So I think that that's something to really keep in mind. And it's something that we've been very conscious of in terms of Eric's brand. Things also change, and you need to be able to evolve your brand as things change. When we first started trying to really grow outside of just the Oregon market, we were still getting a lot of traction on blogs, and we knew that for Eric's brand voice, we wanted it to be a little bit almost impersonal, if that makes sense. There wasn't at the time, everybody on their blog posts would do these big paragraphs of it was a beautiful day, the sun was out, this sweet couple, and they would have this intro and then the photos. And Eric,
I tried to do that, but
it just didn't feel authentic, and it didn't feel in line with Eric's
really
brand. Yeah. So we ended up just doing only images on his blog posts. And at the time, nobody else was really doing that. And people would comment saying, I think that's so cool that you're doing that. So we intentionally did the brand choice. But we also carried it through to our other avenues of brand, engagement with our audience. And just the voice that he had on his posts and that sort of thing were a little bit just professional and simple, not a lot of words, and it wasn't a lot of insight into Eric's personal life. However, I would say in the last year, the Instagram algorithm and how things are happening within the industry, we've started to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and show more of Eric's personality. God help us all.
Yeah, you don't want to see that.
But it's actually been more effective for us right now for us to show more of Eric. But I think that at the beginning, it was more effective for us to look super cool, almost too cool for school, and like just amazing photos. And it kind of elevated and authenticated his brand quickly. We had validation. So things change, and I think you really have to pivot when needed.
Eric, how many rolls of film do you shoot per wedding approximately?
So generally I shoot about 10 rolls per hour of coverage, like of daylight coverage, essentially. So if I'm shooting, a 10-hour wedding and 7 of those hours are during the day, and maybe 3 are kind of a darker reception, I'll probably shoot about 70 rolls. That's kind of been as of lately, that's been about where we've been at.
Well, guys, I was just going to take a quick moment and share a little bit more about the course, and then we'll hop back on. We've got a lot more questions to answer. Eric and Amy are also going to share the winner of the webinar in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Or sorry, the winner of the giveaway in the next 15 to 20 minutes as well. So let me pull back up.
Just us. Hi.
You guys seeing this okay?
Yeah, we see it.
So if you've made it this far, you're ready to attract the clients that you want, price for success, make more money, grow a lasting business, branch into destination markets, and learn the art of film photography. And I can say that Eric's course is definitely one of our best. It's the most informative. I mean, Eric and Amy spent months writing this content, and it's our largest course. It's 750 pages of original content. From beginning to end, Eric and Amy share everything that they've learned about wedding photography. You get 2 hours of video training, and by video training, I mean you're right there with Eric as he's shooting. You're seeing him interact with the couple. You're seeing him make adjustments, different lighting situations. We've got a real couple, an engagement session. We've got an editorial shoot as well as a wedding editorial. So you get to see him shoot a reception table, invitation suite. And then you also get access to an amazing Facebook group with Eric, which I'm going to have Eric and Amy share about here at the end, because it really is such a neat opportunity. And Eric and Amy are our only experts that offer this. None of our other experts who, if I made, have an exclusive Facebook group. So it's a really perk of buying the course. If you enroll now, you get to save $300 today and tomorrow. The full price of the course is $8.99. That's the sale price over the next couple of days, but the retail price is $11.95. And it includes, over 2 hours of videos, and you can get a sneak peek of those on the site. And then we make it really easy for you guys. You get lifetime access, so you get to have the course. There's no expiration date. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you get the course and it's not what you want or it wasn't what you're expecting, we refund you the money back. There's no questions asked. And then we also have payment plans now. Starting at only $79 a month, you can get the course today. And this is also open to international residents. It's not just US-based residents anymore. So you can do a single payment of $8.99 or 12 payments of $79. And the retail value, like I said, is $11.98, and this early bird discount ends tomorrow at midnight. But what's really exciting is what we mentioned earlier. Because you attended the webinar, we're also including an instructional video of Eric working on posts in Lightroom. So this hour-long video of where Eric kind of goes through and shows his whole post process from beginning to end. And to get this special offer, when you purchase the course, use #Eric at the checkout, and we'll know that you attended the webinar, and we'll be sure to include this in your course dashboard. So Eric and Amy, can you share a little bit more about this Facebook group? Because this is something that you guys wanted to do that's unique.
Yeah, so the Facebook group really was something that kind of came about organically when we were getting ready to launch the course last year. Our greatest fear in putting this thing out would be that somebody invests in it and then feels like they didn't get enough or it wasn't worth the investment. That would be terrible. We'd be devastated. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to make sure that we had given everyone accessibility to us on an ongoing basis. So we created a private Facebook group, and it's for everybody who's purchased the course. And it is where we have ongoing discussions. We'll give feedback on images if they have questions about cameras, SEO, building brand stuff. And it's really just a community too, where everybody supports each other, and it's fantastic. And so we have committed to making sure that we're always accessible there. With our travel schedules and busy lives, we may not be able to answer questions right then when you post, but Eric actually has it in his Google Calendar for every Monday morning. That's the first thing he does, is get into the Facebook group and answer any questions that are in there and make sure that he's up to date on giving people the information and support that they need. So it's something that we're just committed to continuing to participate in and grow together and learn together. I mean, it's such a cool community of photographers, and we know that we wouldn't be where we are today without the help and support of others, and we want to give that back and just kind of nurture and grow as a community together there. So we love it, and we're excited to just continue and hopefully connect with some new people who purchase it, in the next 2 days, and they can come hang out with us there.
Cool. So I'm going to put an offer up in the chat section, so you'll be able to click through straight to the site and learn more. And then we're going to keep continuing to answer some questions here and announce the webinar or announce the giveaway winner, but this is going to stay up in the right-hand corner. So Eric and Amy, do you pre-roll a number of film backs to have ready on a wedding day, or Amy, are you just rolling as you move through the day?
No, I have the 2 cameras, and then I have another extra film back, and so generally that's 3 backs. 1 back with Fuji 400H, 1 back with Portra 800 for darker, and then 1 back with whatever black and white film I'm going to need for that particular time of the day. And then I've got 2 additional film inserts in cases, and generally that's there's always a Fuji roll rolled and always a Portra 800 rolled, because we tend to go through those pretty fast sometimes. So whenever my roll finishes, Amy's got the case with the Fuji sitting there and ready for me, and we switch it out and don't miss a beat.
Tara asks, how do you fill out your lab form? Color, contrast, exposure, and what scanner do you select?
So at PhotoVision, they only use Frontier scanners, and those are the types of scans I personally prefer for my work, and I love that PhotoVision's kind of mastered the art of scanning on those scanners, which is awesome, and that's everybody's a little bit different in the look they're going for, but personally that's the direction that I've gone, and I love it. So as far as forms, I don't specify anything crazy, anything different. Really, I'm like neutral on all fronts. I don't want things more warm or more cool or more contrasty than the next person. I really want, PhotoVision, I have my reference images. I've worked with them for 6 years, so they know the look that I want, even though each shoot is very different, which is why I really want them to approach each shoot with kind of a fresh eye, me not necessarily telling them how to do their job, because I trust in what they do. And so I want them to scan for skin tones, and that's what they always do. And unless I have special instructions because I shot something differently than I normally would, then I'm not going to say anything specific at all. They're going to use my reference images and scan my work how they always do.
And if you do have questions for your lab in terms of how do I make sure that this is scanned the way I want it to, just give them a call. I mean, the pro labs, there's a lot of great ones out there, and they're so passionate about communicating with their customers. We love PhotoVision. It's who we use, but I know other labs do this as well. I mean, PhotoVision, you don't have to pay for their customer service or color pack or profile. Call them, and they will sit on the phone with you for an hour, walking you through step by step, answering any questions you have. They're just so passionate about film photography and educating the community, because the more you know, the easier job they have in scanning your work in the future and making sure that they deliver exactly what you want. So if you do have questions or concerns, or you're nervous about a shoot before you send it in, just give them a call and talk it through, and they'll tell you what to do.
So Eric, we've got a couple questions around like staying inspired, and one kind of specific about how do you keep shoots fresh when shooting in the same location? Do you have any tips for kind of shooting in the same place but coming at it with a unique perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm not sure if if I have like a really, really good answer for that. I think each shoot can be so different because the couple is different and the clothing is different and the weather is different, especially in Oregon. Often, I'm going to get a bright sunny day on one occasion and a slightly rainy, very cloudy day on the next. One thing, like just one random tidbit, is I shoot at the Oregon coast a lot, and I have like I have a couple favorite beaches there. And one thing I'll do is one thing I've noticed about these beaches is that the terrain looks completely, depending on the tide that day, the terrain looks completely different. So to keep it interesting, I'll shoot on days where either the tide is up or the tide is way back. And for me, that keeps it fun and interesting. And I'm able to shoot different angles that aren't offered, on a different day. But I don't know if I have like a ton of advice beyond that. I would just say, if you live somewhere where, there are different location options, then I would utilize those. And I wouldn't be afraid to drive an hour to go somewhere different, because I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it because, the couple's going to appreciate it. They're going to appreciate that you're shooting somewhere maybe that you've never shot before. You're going to be inspired because you're shooting somewhere that's a little bit different for you. And we know as photographers and artists that you don't want to do the same thing every day. And also you're going to have, new images and different images to market yourself with, which I think is a good thing. And it's worth that investment in time and possibly gas, money, whatever. And your couples, I know a lot of people are often afraid that their couples aren't going to want to make that same time commitment, but they trust you. And if you come at it from a confident standpoint, then they'll trust you on what you say. And if you say this is a great location and we're going to get great photos, they will go along with you.
So in terms of staying inspired and really pushing creative boundaries, one thing that we've tried to carve out time for in our lives to support Eric just creatively as an artist is making sure that we're doing shoots for no one but himself sometimes. We don't do it every week, not even every month. That would be amazing. But we do try to, just whenever we do have a window in our schedule, get something on the books and invest in ourselves, pay for models, stylists, hair and makeup, do whatever we need to do to push some creative boundaries and work in a different way than just weddings or engagement stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of people ask, what investments do we make in our business or in advertising or whatever? And one of the main investments that we make is in those creative shoots. Like if we're collaborating with models and florists and stylists, I'm not going to email them and tell them, hey, this is a collaboration. You want to do this for free. It's worth it to me to pay these people what they're worth, and it's an investment in the business, and that makes them feel valued and have more of a stake in the shoot. So that's where a lot of times where I choose to invest in the business, because it's good for my art. It's also good for business. Doing a creative fashion editorial can often be the thing that I needed to not only jumpstart me artistically, but actually get me noticed by more people, maybe people who weren't that interested in seeing my wedding work and attracting a new clientele. Also, even people that are interested in seeing my wedding work. I think it adds a coolness factor and just shows a versatility and again, a desirable quality. I guess just that, again, that coolness that adds to your brand and reputation.
It allows you to stand out too. I mean, I think we all probably have very similar feeds when we're scrolling through Instagram. It's brides, it's bouquets, it's couples, it's a dinner plate with a linen tablecloth. And when it's something different than that, people stop and they look. And I think it's a way for you to stand out from the crowd. Figure out what inspires you and shoot more of that. We've talked about this before. I think we even talk about it in the course, but when Eric first transitioned to film, he did a shoot with a model that we love and had worked with in the past. And we didn't have a ton of money at the time, but we really wanted to do this personal shoot just for fun to really push the envelope. So we paid the models gas money and I did the hair and makeup and the styling.
We threw it together the day before.
The day before, we were just let's do this. And it was probably one of our most popular shoots for years. And it was this girl with a white vintage fur jacket and boots, and it was So,
she was chopping wood and gathering water and hanging out by a fire in the snow.
So random, has nothing to do with bridal stuff. And we booked a ton of brides off of that shoot. And they'd say, I think it was featured on Once Wed, right? Probably. Yeah,
Probably.
I think so. And we booked a ton of brides from that specific shoot, and it had nothing to do with bridal, but it made us stand out from the pack. It showed creative edge, and it really differentiated Eric. And so it was the best thing we did, and it was the least bridal thing we did. Mm-hmm. And then we recently just did another shoot where Eric shot all black and white with a stylist, Ben Holtrop, super talented, and I did hair and makeup, and Ben pulled wardrobe, and we invested in 3 models. And Eric shot nothing but black and white film because he really just wanted to push the envelope for himself personally to grow. Yeah. So,
which I was actually pretty uncomfortable. It took me a little while to come around to the idea because I had total FOMO about, well, this is going to look good on color too. But I became okay with it. I accepted it and decided, that was actually going to be a really good, smart thing to do, to step outside of my comfort zone and also just to be able to focus on the black and white and see things that way the whole day rather than switch formats back and forth, which I think helped.
Yeah, it's good to just do those every once in a while. And
we shot and we shot with a lot of direct light, and again, totally stepped out of the norm from my comfort zone. But I love how the shoot turned out, and so cool, and so glad we did it. And I think it was a really great investment in the business.
Christina asked, "Does this course only tailor to photographers shooting film?"
That's a good question. When we wrote it, that was something that we kept in mind because Eric is a film photographer, but in our in-person workshops, we worked with a lot of digital photographers as well. And so it's something that we wanted to make useful and tangible for digital photographers too. However, there is an entire chapter about film, and Eric talks about it a lot because that is what he shoots. Is there so much other information that I think it's still totally worth it for a digital photographer? Yeah, I do. And we do have a lot of digital photographers who have invested in the course and are in our Facebook group. So I think it's still worth it. And there's so much more to it than just how to shoot film. It's how he comes at a wedding day, timeline wise, communicating with clients, branding, creative stuff, pushing yourself as an artist, pricing. There's an entire chapter on pricing and turning a profit and how do you make sure to do that. So I think that there's certainly
and if you're having any questions about it, go through, look at the chapter overview. There's also like a FAQ, which I think answers that very question in writing. Yeah. And then of course there's the money back guarantee thing because we want everybody to be super happy with what they're purchasing. And we would never want somebody to invest and then feel like it wasn't worth every penny. So. Totally.
Well, guys, do you want to share the winner of our giveaway? I know everyone's been
Okay, so thanks so much to everybody. Will you grab the little note? It's behind the laptop right there. It's a Post-it note that has the winner's name on it. Cool. Okay, so thanks, guys, for everybody who did the giveaway. We really appreciate your kind words and participating in it. So the winner of the free course is Grace Jane Photo.
Yay, Grace!
Yay. And we'll also reach out to you on Instagram too, just in case you're not on the webinar. But yeah, thank you again to everyone that entered, and thank you for everyone from around the world that attended today's webinar. And of course, thank you, Eric and Amy, for always being so willing to hop on and answer questions. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining.
Okay. Well, yeah, and remember, guys, you will receive a replay link of this, so feel free to come back anytime and rewatch it. And then the offer does expire tomorrow at midnight. If you're interested in learning more, you can click through the Learn More offer on the chat box. But yeah, thanks, Eric.
I know there were a lot of questions that we didn't quite get to. One thing I did want to mention is Eric and I are actually doing a separate webinar for all of our friends who've already purchased the course and for anybody who does purchase the course right now. So in the next couple months, we're doing another live Q&A webinar just for everybody who's invested in the course for follow-up questions and just to kind of touch base again.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.